Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Table Talks, Couples Edition. Look at all the people we have here.
Yeah.
We're so excited to be with you all, especially with the couples. We usually don't get to talk to you guys. So I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves. Let's start on this side.
My name is Johnny. I'm Jody's husband.
We have Jody, and then we have...
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Johnny's wife.
Yeah.
Well, hello. I'm Natalie, Johnny's wife.
I'm Johnny. This is Clark.
Bobby, better half, belong together, us two together. No,
Yeah.
it's good.
I'm Stella, Mariano's wife, esposa.
Yeah, and I'm Mariano.
You might have seen Bobby in a podcast or two, or all of them. So you guys kind of know her already from the cameras.
Yeah,
So,
it's fun to be here.
yeah. Thank you guys for taking the time to be here with us. Shall we play a little game before we start?
We love games.
We're gonna play the Newlywed game. So I'm gonna ask a question. You have to write. Make sure. I know we're close, but make sure not to try not to look at each other's answers. And then on the count of 3, you're gonna flip it over. I like to say flip it over like a pancake. You're gonna flip it over like a pancake, and then.
That is helpful.
It is helpful. Natalie's
He
laughing.
always says that when I want a massage. He's like, flip it over like a pancake.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that later. Actually, that's question 3. That's question 3.
First week of marriage, you figured that out?
All right. Here we go. We're gonna get to our first question. It's pretty easy, right? You get to write your answer, not look at each other's answers, and then you're gonna flip it over, and we're gonna see if you guys get the same answer. All right? Here we go.
Sounds good.
What was your guys' first date? First date. Sharpies are very smiley.
Flip it like a pancake.
Here we go. Ready?
Right.
Oh, not ready.
I'm ready.
Whew. Mariano's
Oh, Mario's
He remembers it well.
set, go. All right, what do we got here?
Yes, we did it.
I got the
Book,
date.
lunch,
Oh.
and bike ride.
Well, lunch.
Oh wow! What does it say?
And we went to
Penguins?
the
Penguins,
Yeah, so we
frozen
got it
yogurt.
right.
Penguins.
Oh.
Very specific.
What do we have here?
Okay. It was Mission Impossible 4 and then ice cream after.
Yeah.
Great
I
movie.
put movies, Mission Impossible 3 or 4. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we
but it
were
was
paying
4.
attention. Boring.
That's question 3 again. I'm just kidding.
We're paying attention.
And then ice cream after. Yes.
Nice. Very
Definitely.
We went to a restaurant.
We
Sioux
were
City.
living in
Oh.
Iowa. I know, Texas Roadhouse.
That's the best restaurant
Yes,
ever.
it's
good.
So good.
With the best rolls,
The
yeah.
little biscuits? Oh my gosh.
So good.
What'd you guys do, Mariano?
Well, I got the
So-
right date, and she got the place.
I got the activity.
The date?
Yeah.
You just had the
And
date?
she got the place. So.
Anniversary down, dude. That was
Nice.
nice.
I picked
That
him up
just
from the
happened.
airport, and we went to this garden, the Civic Center area, and had like a breakfast, like muffins and fruit I brought.
Yeah, it was
It was kind of awkward.
Worked
Long
out that-
distance for
Yeah,
4
long
months,
distance relationship,
and then
then you say face to face.
Oh, there's more to a story there.
Yeah.
They have a very interesting love story. Maybe one day we can do a whole table talks about it.
Yeah.
Super
just
cool.
us.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
All right, number 2, favorite TV show. I was laughing when I put that one in because
For,
I know your guys' favorite TV show.
They watch together, right?
Who's?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, your guys' favorite TV show as a couple.
Oh, I just put your favorite.
Like, oh.
Can't decide.
Do too.
This is
Pressure.
a bad idea. It's a lot of Sharpie.
I know. I'm trying to be careful not to touch white pants.
Flip it like a pancake.
You ready? Flip like a pancake. Go.
Oh
Yeah,
Oh.
let's watch that together.
We do. Seinfeld is his favorite show.
Yeah,
Wait,
good,
what did
we
you
did
put?
it.
Yes.
Oh wow! Look at that.
You are
Friends and the Chosen.
Yeah, you guys are really
They're very
excited.
similar also.
Cowboys
So-
football and The Office. Love
I'm so
it.
sure you guys have put
The Office,
Chosen
yeah.
too.
The
I
Chosen.
guess The Office trumps it.
Not for much longer.
It's been around longer.
Here we go. The Office, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. I love that you guys had both in that same order, I think, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive. All right, here we go. Next one. Who said "I love you" first? Ready?
Mariana had to think about it.
Yeah.
He's
I'm not
writing the
really
date.
sure what to say.
Army time.
Ready?
Yeah.
Set, go.
What'd you put?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it you?
Mutual.
Yeah,
Yeah. You said
I think I did.
You said me.
Oh yeah, mutual. Me. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's not how it works.
Okay.
Either you said it or she said it. Or was it at the same time?
Or did you mean to say?
No way, you guys looked
You
at each
said
other.
1,
and-
2, 3. I love you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ready to go. all right. It's pretty close. Johnny, first
Johnny
one.
did.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
How'd you do it? Please tell us. You just
It's
said
been a
it.
while.
It's been a while since you've said I love you, or
No,
since.
it's been a while the first
Oh,
time.
Okay.
I tell him I love him every day, and I tell him I love him every day.
Just kidding.
It was
And
yeah.
it was just. Do you
Yeah, he
remember
just.
it?
I think he said. I do remember it very well, but I think it caught him off guard even when he just
It
kind of
just
said,
came
"I
out.
love you,"
Ah,
It's overflowed.
that's the
It
best.
just, exactly.
and I
That's
said,
beautiful.
"Thank you." No, I'm just kidding.
That's so funny.
All right, here we go. Next one. Moving on. Who is the funniest?
Oh,
Who's
sorry.
the funniest? Who makes people laugh? Ready, set, go.
Bob for sure.
Yeah, you.
You
No,
put me?
I said you were funny. You're
For sure
funny.
him.
You're
That
unintentionally
is
funny.
for sure him.
Natalie's unintentionally funny. Like she'll just be naturally funny. I have to try hard to be funny. Natalie doesn't. She's just.
Please, like though.
I think you should tell me that more often.
All right, moving on. What is your go-to date night? Go-to date night. It's a date night. It's time to go. Where are you gonna go? Oh. As a whole, not just like during COVID times. Like just
Oh,
Yeah.
not
Alright.
good daytime.
yeah. Oh no, I got Sharpie on me.
Sure,
Alright.
right on yourself.
Ready?
Yep.
Set, go.
Oh, Mariana's still writing.
Yep.
What did you put?
Dinner and movies.
Movies.
Yeah.
Nice
I
dinner.
Combined
What did you
together.
put?
Movies,
Dinner.
pizza.
Okay.
Seal
Beach.
Beach. Beach.
The beach, that's
Nice.
fun.
What'd you put? Dinner or movie? Yeah. Pizza.
You were very
We always end up
specific.
eating pizza. Yeah.
Yes.
We love pizza. I love pizza, and then Natalie just kind of learned to go with
To
it.
adapt.
All right. Who is the best cook?
That's an easy one.
Who's the best cook? What are you writing?
That's a long name.
name. All of your last names.
Chick-fil-A. They are the best.
Maybe she's putting her mom.
I would
be.
agree with that. Go.
What did you put?
You.
Unless it's
Unless it's steak.
Yeah, I don't know how to make steak.
The arrow,
Oh,
that's
fair.
cute.
That's
An arrow.
Yeah.
I gotta say my words.
Yeah.
I like it. Man, a few words.
all right. Here we go with the last one.
All right.
Who is more emotional?
Oh.
All range of emotions, not just tears. Lord, forgive me. And Natalie, forgive me as well.
Already.
Go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it just little
Give yourselves a round of applause. There we go. I think we're all winners on this one. Very good, very good. All right. Shall we jump into our first question? This one's a really fun one. What were the most shocking things that you learned about your spouse when you were newly married? So it's the first night at home, not during like honeymoon, like you're home, it's settled in, like you're married, you're gonna live with this person for the rest of your life, and then you learn something new. What is it? Please share with us. I'll start.
Yeah.
I think I learned. I'll flip it. I learned something about myself. I didn't know how bad I was at arranging things in my house,
Got an example?
especially in the kitchen. Yeah,
Okay.
the plates were not where they were supposed to be. It was not efficient. My way of living was not efficient. It was just all over the place. I don't
can
know.
agree.
Maybe you can kind of share.
Yeah.
when she got there and we started arranging things, like, because we painted the whole like the cabinets in the kitchen and stuff, and we were putting stuff back in, I was like, no, that's not where the plates go. Like, I usually have them here. And she's like, why? That's so far away from like what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the plate should be like in the cabinet closest to the dining table,
Yeah.
and then the utensils right under that silverware.
It was all
There you go.
flipped.
Yeah.
I just moved into the house and I
The-
never moved anything.
The
like
plates
me.
were like one side, silverware was like on the other side of the kitchen, and it was like a maze in there. So
It was horrible. So I learned that I was really bad at arranging a home, and then she saved me.
There you go. Way to go,
you're
Natalie.
welcome.
You can thank me later.
What about you guys?
I mean, we dated for 3.5 years. We knew each other really well. Now that you shared that, the one thing that I'm thinking about was, it wasn't in the first week, but I didn't realize Johnny's really good at design. I mean, he's a cabinet maker, and so he's really good at design. And so he does have a lot of opinions about he has good opinions about like what we should do, what kind of tile goes with this, kind of that. It's not, I mean, probably more than you would expect. Like he has really good opinions about design and style. I'm more like, yeah, whatever. Sure, if you like that.
Very easy.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, I didn't ever live with a boy. And so I grew up, I only had sisters. I mean, yeah, I had my dad around, but, your dad just kind of, like, you grew up with him, so you know, like, his routines and kind of what he does, and that's your normal. But, like, I went to college, I lived with a couple girls, then I lived in, like, an apartment with, like, 5 girls, like, all girls, only girls. And there was, like, after, a week of, like, yeah, we had been best friends for a few years, and we were engaged for months, whatever. But then we lived together for just, like, days. And I was like, what is that smell? I was like...
My workout clothes, my whatever.
And you're like, we have to, like, is there a dead animal? Like, we gotta get in here. And
In college, I had like a container. Like a lot of people just have like a laundry basket that's like foldable or whatever. I had like a box.
like a safe with
that
a
I would
lock.
like throw my clothes in,
And
shut
shut.
it, and then go laundry day, go do it because, yeah.
And like being an athlete in college, though, like you have like student managers and people that just like take
do
your
laundry
uniforms and
for
do.
ya.
And so Clark would get back from the gym and like all of our laundry is together, and I'm like, like I would bring it to our little
What is
apartment
that?
and like, oh
This
hey,
is
I'm
me,
putting it.
baby. All me. I would say one thing I learned about myself is there were times I would wake up and Bobby's like yelling at me in the middle of the night, and I'm like, what's going on? And evidently we'd been having a conversation for like 5 minutes, and she thought I was awake. But I was sleep talking in my
Totally
sleep.
sleep talking.
But I talk like this when I'm sleep talking. And evidently I had some kind of logic to it. I don't know.
It was.
And all of a sudden I
remember
wake
it
up and
well.
Bobby's like, Clark, wake up! And I'm like, what's going
I'm
on?
like going to the living room or something. I'm like, whatever. I don't even trust you anymore. Like, let's talk about concession stands. It's
Yeah.
like 2 a.m.
Bobby, the concession stands are awake. They're awake.
Whatever. I know. You did learn a lot.
So
We
yeah,
learned a lot.
evidently I talk in my sleep.
Yeah.
And you smell.
And I talk
Your
well.
clothes smell.
And I smell bad.
We have a better system now. But that initial.
I got Cala's back up now, so yeah. Sorry, ladies.
It was good. It is good to learn that about you.
Yes. What about you guys?
I think with us, like coming from 2 different cultures, there were so many things. Like there's so many things you do just because your mom did and your grandma before, and you don't ask why. So there were a lot of little things like if the eggs go outside or in the refrigerator,
Yeah.
like the fridge,
Yeah.
like in Argentina, they're outside. They're not in the.
refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
And the butter is inside, and so she will leave the butter outside and the eggs inside. It's like, why are you doing that? So we had a lot of those, like just
Yeah.
different cultures coming together.
So where do you keep your eggs now?
Yeah.
In the fridge. Well,
In the
because we
fridge,
looked it
in the
up.
States you have to. In
In the
Argentina
States.
you don't. I find out, I was like, why? Cause I don't, and then I find out that actually there is a process they do here that they don't do in Argentina, and that's why.
Oh, that makes sense.
Natalie, do you have
We
anything
learned that too.
you learned about me?
Something similar to Bobby is that you talk a lot in your sleep.
Oh, I thought it was the smell. I was like,
Where did
oh,
it go?
I thought you were gonna say. I remember when
hanging.
you guys first got married, and
Come
I
on,
thought you were
dude.
gonna
That's a
say
lot.
getting out of the shower. Do you remember having a conversation with that?
Yes.
Like, do you get out of the shower and dry off out of the shower,
Another thing, I
or
had
do you
to teach
dry
him.
off in the shower? It's like,
Yes, that first week of marriage,
That's her.
I would go into the bathroom and it was like
Wait,
a
wait.
water park.
yeah, the puddles everywhere.
So I told him, dry yourself off in the
So
shower.
real quick, what do you dry off in the shower or out of
I
the
hated
shower?
that.
In the shower.
In the shower.
In the shower. In the shower.
In the shower, yeah.
Out of the shower.
No, it's like steamy still.
It's
in
all
there.
wet.
So you dry out of the shower?
I don't even know. What do you do?
I change it up. I just can't.
Whatever you feel like.
Clark's like walking around with this towel on. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Get in here." I step out onto the mat,
Oh.
dry, just because otherwise I'm like, the shower is wet. I'm it's wetness.
See, he wouldn't step onto the mat. He would just go on the floor and then puddle.
What do you
Also-
guys do?
Well,
That's his style.
yeah,
That-
we do it differently. But if the towel's like on the rack over here, you have to get out of the shower. So why would I get the towel and then go back into the shower?
Yeah.
You know, so
I
I'm
put
sure
the towel over the shower.
Yeah,
line.
that's what I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. Right before
Have the
I
shower
do-
right, the towel right by
Yeah.
you.
Remember?
But then it gets wet when you're.
So
No,
to
that's
you listening, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you,
We'd like to know.
you dry off in the shower or outside? Let us know.
I actually remember I got yelled at by Natalie in her honeymoon. Because
She slipped?
also before that, I never traveled much. Like I didn't go anywhere. So that was my first like major trip out. You know, like out like that, like hotels and stuff like that. Yeah, into the world.
Take this guy anywhere.
Yeah. So I actually took a shower and I left the towel like, you know, the one that they leave. So
The
that you
bath
can
mat.
put it- yeah,
Towel.
yeah. So you can put it out or whatever.
He
I
left
just
it folded
there.
on the
I just
tub.
folded. I just took a shower and Natalie's like, "Why is this towel so wet?" And I'm like, "What towel? I didn't see anything." Like you're supposed to use this. Well, she was teaching me like to be a cultured man. You know?
Etiquette.
Obviously.
I told her they fold it over the tub so you can lay it down on the floor.
That's the extra towel, right?
Yeah.
But now he knows. Now he
Yes.
knows.
All right, so maybe this leads me to another question. How do you deal with conflict? I mean, there's differences. Those are silly ones, but there might like some actual arguments might arise out of this, right? So how do you deal with conflict? How do you
Indian leg
guys
wrestle.
talk it out? Yeah. Maybe from you guys. You guys have been married a little longer than we have, so
A little bit.
I don't know. When we have conflict, we try to set aside a time and we speak to each other respectfully and bring up what the problem is at that point, not dredge up old problems that from times before, but just speak to the one at hand.
Yeah.
That's a great. Are you taking notes? That's a
I know.
great-
I know. Give me the
Sharpie.
notepad.
I'm gonna
That's a goal.
Yeah, and I think part of it too. I mean, anytime you're in conflict, there's a couple things that I think are really crucial. One is it's easy to tell ourselves a story in our mind of all their intent instead of just going to them and saying, "Look, this happened. Can you tell me what's going on?" So we want to listen. We want to communicate. I think another thing that is super important is we need to listen in conflict so that we're actually hearing what the person's sharing and responding that way. And so, I mean, if we truly believe that our spouse has good intent and has a good heart, that they're not an evil person trying to hurt us, then we're going to approach conflict in a whole different way. And so that's super important.
Jody, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you ever use like the crucial conversation stuff? Like
Johnny.
like judo,
home?
like you know, like
She might.
I just don't know about it.
No, it.
What is this?
We'll
Crucial
talk later.
conversation?
Well, for sure, you use it in every relationship, right? So,
Nice.
Bobby's had
What do I
the
do?
thing before where she's like, "Don't go, Pastor Clark." On me." Like, we're talking right now.
There you
I'm
go.
like, okay.
Well, because you can be so loving and gracious with folks. I think that's one thing in conflict that has been super helpful for us to learn is like, I will need you to give me 5 minutes. So like, okay, an event happens or a conversation happens or there's a disagreement or a conflict. And some folks of you guys, and I know from couples class too, might say like, hey, let's talk about it right now. And I will say, and now we've come to a spot in our marriage where I'll say, yep, I do want to talk about it. And I'm going to walk for 5 seconds outside to the backyard and just like do a lap. And then I'm going to come back in. And so I think that that's been just a learning about myself within like my own processing and like when, it may not even be conflict, but just a disagreement about something. And then we might come back together after, I've processed or Clark's had a minute. And so I think timing is something that we've learned that can be really helpful. And then just within couples ministry too, something that we've heard from other folks that has been like so helpful and something with me and how I view Clark is Emerson and Eggridge have this curriculum that's called Love and Respect.
Yeah,
and one
it's
of the
really
main, it's been so fun to learn with other couples, but one of the main ideas from it is you got cycles and behavior patterns that we do often, and so that's good to learn. But the main takeaway for me that has stuck with me, this is our 10-year anniversary, is like if I picture Clark and I see Jesus, my Lord and my Savior, behind my Clark, I'm going to treat Clark differently. And I'm going to think about Clark differently. I'm going to speak differently.
Yeah.
And if I, see my Clark and I see, someone who might be a threat or that's, all kinds of things in the moment, well then I'm gonna respond differently too. And so that's been something for me, for us, is like picturing Jesus in the moment, standing behind Clark, because Clark's his, and and
it's like the ultimate father-in-law. I look at her and realize, and she is my wife, but she's also the Lord's daughter, and so I got to figure out how do I speak and treat her well. I think a couple other things I would say. One, like fighting fair and being giving specific examples, saying you always do this, you've always done this.
Right, that's
and
not a specific example.
Absolutes is like, that's not helpful. But to say like, hey, like here's an example. Yesterday at dinner, you said this. I wasn't sure where that was going to hurt my feelings. That's really helpful because people can just go, okay, this is what was happening then and there. I think for us too, talking in front of our kids is actually really important. So a lot of people haven't seen their parents have conflict. They don't know how to do it well. And so there are sometimes Kirby and Cal walk in and look and be like, what's going on? And we're like, hey, we love each other. We're just talking about, X, Y, or Z. And they're like, okay, all right, we're good. And we're like,
yeah,
like, I love Mom. And we're Oreos. We're like, hey, so I would say, that's important too. And then handling things within a closer time frame, whether it's 5 minutes, you got to walk away and come back.
Yeah.
If you don't handle it, it's going to volcano, and eventually it erupts. And you're like, last year you did this, and I don't even remember what I ate and wore yesterday, so I'm not supposed to remember what happened last year. Just handling it in a kind of a close timeline.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys have anything?
You want to answer this one?
Sure. I think just communicating and being honest with how we feel, and for me, I think with my personality, I tend to run from conflict, and so just being open to be like, this is how I feel, and not being afraid of it. So.
Yes. Natalie, anything?
Yeah, I think for us, the main thing is to cool down a little bit before we do talk, because both of us are a little bit of hotheads. Like, we just get angry really fast. So it helps us to cool off for a second before we actually talk to each other.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a little more of what Clark was saying, like being fair about it. Just I know that where I'm entering a conversation that I'm going to have to talk to her after that conversation and for the rest of my life. So I don't want to say anything that is going to hurt her feelings in the long run as well, or at all. Because I know that after that conversation is done, now we're going to have dinner together. So, and we're always near each other. So I'm like, I don't want to say anything that is going to hurt her feelings, and then it's just going to be hurtful to our relationship as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being honest too. I'd like to ask a question that maybe in a lot of churches or couples groups they don't really touch on, or it's just like one of the topics in like a 12-week course or whatever, and that's sex. All right. So how important is sex in a marriage? And I'll leave that open, like an open-ended question. You can talk about whatever you'd like. So I'll take a couple minutes to talk about that. So sex in marriage.
I've heard sex described as the glue that holds a good marriage together, and I think that's true. And I think it's also intimacy, body, soul, and spirit. We're all three, so you can have sex, but not maybe intimacy emotionally or spiritually. But I think if you have all three, body, soul, and spirit, you're going to have a strong marriage. So intimacy, because that's what sex is intimacy, but we want intimacy in all those three areas.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say that it's so fun. It's so much fun.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, especially why are you laughing? It's just fun.
I'm yes.
It's awesome. Just kidding. When I was going through like youth groups and stuff like that, they would always tell me they would always focus on the don't do it and not
taboo part.
Yeah, and don't do it, and not so much on the wait till you see what it's like when you really love that person and you're married and you get to do it all whatever you want because you're married, right?
Yeah.
And I wish somebody would have told me more of the positive side and the beautiful side of it, and not so much on the you're gonna go to hell if you have sex outside of marriage. So
Something that you shared in a youth group that I loved was you said sex is a gift from God, and it is when it could be something so beautiful when it's like Stella said, that intimacy with your spouse. It truly is a gift from God, and it's a beautiful gift.
I remember one of my uncles, and it really wasn't weird listening to him talk about it, but he said it's actually a great act of worship too, because not only are you intimate with your spouse, but also with the Lord. He explained that there are times where he'll actually pray. I was like, that's interesting. I've never heard anybody say that, and that's actually something that we've adopted and have tried to be mindful of, during that time, and it really has become a beautiful thing because. I mean, I don't know of a more like enjoyable moment for a guy, at least on earth, other than when I'm like with my wife. Like, that's awesome. And then to bring the Lord into it, you're getting, I think, maybe even a glimpse of heaven, of like, this is what you were created for, an intimacy with one flesh, and then also with the Lord, to be in that. And so I also agree with what you said, Johnny, about how do you talk about it, because at the end of the day, it is going to be talked about in other spheres. So I actually think the church should talk about it more often, and address it head on, even with kids younger than we might be comfortable with talking, because it is being discussed already.
Yep.
And so why is it a gift? Why is it a good thing? And would you add anything?
No, I'm glad for the question too. And I think one of the things that, you are a student of your spouse from, in dating and engagement and then in marriage too. And so that can be, what kind of gifts, what kind of acts of service, what kind of meals does Clark, like I am a student of Clark in all realms of life, and that includes within intimacy too. And so, we've talked with couples in couples ministry, and it's like, hey, I'm working, she's working, we've got, 2 kids, we're doing daycare, and we're literally just like, then you schedule everything. You need to schedule intimacy with each other. You schedule a date night, you need to schedule. And so that's just part of this evolving relationship with each other, this dance that you do where, there's like, you are never more vulnerable with someone than when you are standing in nakedness with each other. And so, like, there is, like Clark, you called it an act of worship. There is this wonderful gift that Johnny said too, that God made within the covenant of man and woman, blah, 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 that does not get, it really doesn't get like the wow factor that it deserves in the covenant of marriage. And so I will say, a lot of people will say, men's love language of a man is physical touch, and it's so much more there. And I think let's have a conversation, husband and wife, but also man and woman, with our physiology and our anatomy and how God made us, and just be honest with maybe like what we need or what's hard, and then learn from each other in that. What?
I'm going to add to that. Just coming from couples ministry, it's crazy how many times we have conversations with people who are younger even, and they're like, we might have intimacy once a week or a couple times a month. For me, I'm like, wait, what? Like, why are you not having more? And it's not always enjoyable for both people. And oftentimes it's been awkward within the relationship for them to discuss. And so kind of like you're saying, I hope that people can get to a point where you're actually able to talk about it in details of like, what's helpful and what's not, and I think it'll end up benefiting everybody, both people involved, and the one fleshness there. So
in that, I think the word teaches a version of sex in a selfish way. It's all about like me and what can I get from this. But when you see God's way, it's about giving, and when you have that in your mind, like, okay, it's not about me, is how can I make this other person, my wife, how can she feel better? How can when it's about giving, it gets so much better. And I think that's the godly way. I think like a lot of couples, the sex life is so empty because they're okay. What can I take? And it's all about you're just thinking yourself. But when you're thinking your spouse, like sex turns in something beautiful because we are both like thinking of each other.
It's good.
I think society makes sex be the foundation of marriage, and it's a very important part, like all you guys have said. But it's not like what society says it is. That it's if it's not it's not great and all all the time, then it's
Your marriage isn't great.
your marriage isn't good.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to piggyback on what you said about your youth group saying no, you can't have it. You gotta wait. It's kind of a weird transition going from no to yes. It's just kind of like it's hard to adjust to me. I mean, remembering back and where it first started.
Right. So it's important to talk about it, like you said.
Yeah.
I think, kind of piggybacking, I was thinking the same thing, Mariano. When you see sex as giving instead of taking, it changes what sex is, and I think our world sees sex as taking. And then the other thing, to piggyback on Stella, just to name the obvious, we believe that the Bible teaches that sex is meant for marriage. And when we enter that relationship in marriage, there is an intimacy that takes place because that is saved for that person.
Yeah.
And it's something that is just between the two of you. And there's something very beautiful and very intimate and very personal about that. And that's a beautiful thing. And so, when, it becomes very complicated when there's things going on outside of the marriage, and that's where things get tricky. And so it's just important to make sure that is something that is between a husband and wife.
And I would add too, if especially for you listening, if maybe you haven't saved yourself for marriage, that's going to be part of your story, and that's going to be part of like the redemptive process of you becoming the man or woman and couple that God created you to be. And so you got to give that to the Lord and allow Him to bring healing there. And you need to talk to your spouse or your boyfriend and girlfriend or your fiance, because your body is about to become theirs, and all the cards need to be on the table. And the beautiful thing is today you can make a choice to say, well, I'm going to change the way that I viewed other people, and I'm going to change the way that I've thought about this. And instead of taking, I want to be one who blesses and gives. So praying that shame is given to the Lord, He'll take that. And same thing with regret and guilt, because there's a lot of us who have made bad decisions and stuff that we might have regretted doing, but you just give that to the Lord, and that's not out of His reach, of His love and His grace, His forgiveness. And so I would also offer that to whoever's listening as well.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. One of the things that I learned, first and foremost, with communication, just like ask each other, like, that was weird, or that was awesome, let's try that again. What you like, what you don't like, that kind of thing. And also having a mentor couple that you're open with and saying like, hey, like we need to talk about this stuff, and because you might not feel as comfortable addressing at first or some of the issues. So if you have someone that you're open with and can talk with, a person, a guy or a girl that's kind of coaching you and mentoring you, then you can ask questions and be open, and then be confident enough in asking your spouse and saying like, hey, like, let's have fun with it. It's not that serious. Like, it's supposed to be an enjoyable moment for both, right?
Sure.
So thanks for answering that question. I know a lot of people shy away from it, and you guys are super comfortable with it. So thank you for asking. Last one, our boy Pinoy, just kidding, Andrew Fernandez, just got recently engaged. What does Pinoy mean again?
It is boy.
It's boy. Yeah, so that's his Instagram handle if you want to follow him. It's right here. Pinoy. He's an awesome skater. And he just got engaged to Stacy Gray.
Yes.
So, question for you guys: what is the one thing you would offer to them as a newly engaged couple? Think about the years of your experiences, your premarital process, maybe. Like, what were the things you would talk about as you were engaged, getting ready to plan a wedding, life, kids, anything you want to throw out there to offer to Andrew and Stacy?
I would go first.
Yeah.
I think something was very helpful to us. It was to set our priorities in our lives, and from the very beginning, and we said, okay, for each one of us, first has to be God, like God in the first place. You won't be in the first place, like God in the. You will be in the second place. The third place, when the kids come, we didn't have any kids yet, like, will be the kids, then the ministry, and then, all the rest of the things. But it was like a big thing for us to always to put in the first place our personal relationship with God. Because we know, like, if I'm close to God, if she's close to God, we're going to be okay. Yeah. So that was huge for us. Like, okay, my relationship, my personal relationship with God has to stay in the first place.
Yeah, and that's different than ministry,
Yeah, that's not the ministry. And the ministry got the fourth, the fourth place. It's just
That's
your
good,
personal relationship with God.
It's awesome. Anybody else? He's waiting. He's taking notes. Off camera, he's taking notes.
I'm listening.
I would say do marriage counseling.
For sure.
Because it's really helpful, and it just gives you fun things to talk about, because you're spending so many hours together being engaged, and you just want to talk about everything. So there's so many fun questions and things if you do marriage counseling.
I agree. It was a huge blessing for us. And having that communication beforehand was awesome. We got to set our priorities. We got to understand what we wanted in our marriage. And so, yeah, premarital counseling.
Yeah, having a person coaching and kind of mediating, asking the tough questions that you might not want to ask yourself, and then having to talk about them was super helpful. So
For sure.
Yeah, I think you need to have those conversations. You need to talk about what routines in your home will be, what roles you each will have in the marriage. I think you need to talk about what you expect out of the marriage. This is the time to have those conversations. And so premarital counseling is crucial. And we did that before we got married. It was a lot different. When we did it, it was still good, but it was a lot different than what it is now. I love it, Emmanuel. We have the mentor couples. It's super powerful. But real quick story in our premarital counseling. Our premarital counselor said to Johnny every day, he was an older guy, you need to take your wife by the face. And you need to tell her, I bless you in the name of the Father. And we're sitting across from him, and he's like, I'm cracking up. But that has become our joke. I bless you in the name of the Father.
Make her look like a pug and a bulldog and smush her face. Yeah.
Bless you.
Noted.
Sprinkle her with holy water too while you're at it.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah.
anyone else?
Yeah, I think when we were talking
we
about
process
it,
these,
we talk about it. I think one of the learnings that we've had is oftentimes people need counseling about a year in just as much, if not more, than they did before marriage.
So just keep those relationships.
Because
with
I
those
affirm
mentors.
everything you guys said, which is incredible, talking about what you want, expectations, but it's not until you get into the relationship that you realize,
Wait, what?
wait a second, like, what's going on here? This is different than I expected. And then you revisit everything you worked so hard to kind of lay out.
Yeah.
You go, how are we doing? What's changed and shifted now that we're in it? And I think it'd be very helpful. And then on top of that, too, talking about like the word covenant, like what does that mean? Because the feeling, the lovey-dovey emotions will come and go. But like, what does it mean to, say we're stepping into a covenant till death do us part, health and sickness, and wealthy or poor or whatever. It's like we're in this together, and really trying to hash that out as best as you can with the life experience you can. Because oftentimes people get married in the early 20s, not everybody, but oftentimes in their 20s. There's limited life experience, and so having to make a covenant commitment is a big deal. And like you said, that's where the mentor couple can come in and kind of maybe shed some light that at the time we don't have, so.
Yeah, we said too that like when you get engaged, a lot of times it's like, hey, you're engaged, when's your wedding?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so be engaged and have boundaries and know that like just because like you have, said these things that doesn't entitle you to do anything until you're married, because I think that's when sometimes boundaries can get gray. But then another thing too is in the season of engagement, your wedding day, that is a poignant day to plan and to prepare for, but that's one day. And so the engagement season really, however long or short it is just a preparation for marriage and, forever on earth until death do us part. And so, you have a lot of days to walk that out together, but I think sometimes, we get lost in a lot of the fluff of, your wedding day instead of really loving and preparing one another for marriage forever. And so one of the things too, last thing, was just along with the tough questions is like, the vision of marriage that you have and how really like if it's only for your happiness and if it's only for you, it's only has that take mentality, then there's a lot of conversation and just kind of prayer and like grit that needs to come out there, because really Yahweh gives us a vision for marriage that's about Him. Yeah. It's about Him and His glory and our holiness unto Him, walking that out. And so I say this too, and I don't mean this, Andrew, but engagement is a time too to say like maybe we need to pull the reins a little bit. And so yes, let's bless and move forward, but let's be patient too if we need to and take time. And so that's kind of I think where we ended. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tackling all those questions in such a short amount of time.
Solved all the problems.
Thank you for that.
Good
And
work.
thank you for tuning in to our table talks. We're going to have a really, really fun one next month as well. So we hope to see you here. Bye-bye.